Welcome to Unpacked, an open-minded podcast taking a clinical, not political approach to helping pet parents around the world. I'm Sailor Jerri, certified dog trainer, virtual dog training revolutionary, owner of Tulsa Pack Athletics, and creator of the open-minded approach.
And I'm Mattison, her friend, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant. Together, we have nearly 3 decades of experience in behavioral dog training.
We've been working with real dogs and the humans who love them to create solutions to problematic behaviors that feel too big for them to tackle on their own. In this episode, Mattison and I are chatting with one of the open-minded approach interns who donated a daily 4-week one-on-one training program to help one of our guests kickstart their training journey.
If you haven't yet been introduced to the case in previous episodes, feel free to go back and listen to those first, or jump right in. Settle in with us and unpack. Well, hello, Kirsten. We are so excited to chat with you today about this case and about the training. But before we dive into the specifics, I was wondering if you could just take a minute and tell the dog people out there just how you came into our world and a little bit more about your background and your approach.
Hi, Madison and Jerry. Thanks for having me on. So I've been involved in Tulsa Pack, I think, for about a year now, and have pretty much taken all of the internships, all of the courses. So for new dog trainers, I would definitely recommend getting involved with them. Loved the behavior mentorship, loved the one-on-one apprenticeship with Jerry. That really helped me gain the confidence to be my own business owner, my own dog trainer. So that was really fun. I got into dog training like many of us do, with that pipeline of behavior dog to dog trainer. My first pup was a reactive rescue healer Malinois mix, and so I really owe
Wowza.
everything.
Wowza. My eyeballs were like, okay.
So that's what really got me into dog training. Was I spent thousands and thousands of dollars and hours working with a bunch of trainers, working with vets, figuring out what the heck was quote unquote wrong with my dog. Because to be honest, I was a very new dog owner at that point. I had my parents' dogs growing up, which were little Pomeranian mixes that were not very well trained.
Little different.
Yeah, so it was 0 to 100. And so that's how I started the dog training process. Interned with people, took the courses, got the certifications, and now here I am. So I'm not sure. Is that enough of a background for your viewers?
Yeah. And honestly, Kirsten, you are, I think, the perfect representation of the student sponge. You were so excited and ready to absorb all the new information. So getting to watch you take these lessons and internalize them and then immediately be able to turn around and apply them has been really cool to watch.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
I agree. I remember the very beginning. And just the difference in the way you present yourself and speak to other people is like just skyrocketed. It's incredible. I love watching it. I like watching I'm glad people come here and they stick around, because it's really special to watch someone actually progress. They're around you, so you can, by proximation, I think is what you start to see. Wow, people really do change, and it's not true that we're all just
stuck in our ways,
always
the same
Yeah, it's not true. If you're a curious person and you put yourself around other curious people, you can learn and grow so much. It's been lovely to watch.
Thank you.
It really has. So I'm curious, what were your first thoughts when you were paired with Grace and Stella? What really stood out to you about them as a team?
I thought it was really cool because I saw a lot of myself in Grace and Stella, because that was my experience with Frodo, with my first dog. A lot of the similarities of Stella likes other dogs. So that's already, I'm like, oh, fantastic. That's so much easier. But it was just really nice to see a person who was so devoted to figuring out how to help their dog and so willing to put in the work. And I think I've said this to you before privately. I think Grace and Stella maybe made in a month, 6 months worth of progress. Like they just really put in the work, and to see someone that dedicated. And she just also was very intuitive, where she got to know Stella really well. And they had spent a bit of time together, obviously, before we hopped into this program. But it was very clear to me that she was very in tune to trying to see what Stella's body language was, which was super cool to have a client that was already so into figuring out what a dog needed and what their dog was telling them within their interactions and willing to go at their own dog's pace. And that's why I think they made as much quick, for lack of a better term, progress as they did, was because they were totally okay with going slow to go fast, which, as when you're working with a dog that
Yes.
separation anxiety, fearfulness, or a bit of stranger danger when it comes to people, a lot of times people will go and do flooding. They'll like really overwhelm a dog, and that doesn't help with progression. So already I would say that they were just such a great team to work with.
Yeah, I agree. And it seemed definitely she showed up, right? Like she
Yes,
showed up
yes.
consistently. She'd put in a lot of work, and I could see her interpretation of events really unfold throughout those 4 weeks to where she really started locking in, oh, I know what I'm seeing now. And when we can help the human have that light bulb moment, we know that their lives have changed completely. And it's never going to go back because those are the once you see them, you can't unsee them things.
And it was so cool because for the viewers out there, they had a long list of goals. And I would say we probably made progress, even to a certain degrees, in all areas because they were. Grace was really of the mind of tell me what I need to do and I will do them. So I would come pretty much every day and there'd be a stack of videos for me to review. There would be messages for us to go back and forth. She was very much, I did the thing. What's next? Can you tell me what? And yeah, just the engagement was huge. And it was so fun to see them progress because, as you said, week on week, I was seeing the leaps when it came to her confidence, Stella's confidence. So that was really cool to see.
Let's put a pin in that right there and talk about that.
Mm.
Because everyone that's listening, what's the difference between that experience that a dog parent could have versus someone who is struggling and feeling like it's not going very well with the same exact trainer, same exact trainer? What are some of the things that you just said them? So let's clarify that, or let's go back and highlight that stuff. What makes someone successful in virtual training?
As a
You
client or
just
as a
said
trainer?
as a client. So like you show up, you
Mm-hmm.
engage, ask
If you don't
questions.
understand, because
Mhm.
Curiosity.
everyone learns differently, right? So
Yeah.
I may have said something to one client and it made perfect sense, but maybe I say the exact same thing to another client and it doesn't. I was always the kid in the class that had their hand up. I had on
Same.
my report card, Kirsten needs to, but the teachers would tell me, I'm sorry, you can't raise your hand anymore in class. So I really value that in a student. And I think that's how you get it. If you're paying somebody to teach you how to do something, do not feel bad about asking clarifying questions. And you're not dog trainers, speaking to clients here. There's no a lot of people be like, oh, like I don't know what to do. And they feel really down on themselves. Yeah, of course you don't know what to do. You're not a dog trainer. We're not expected. You have this creature who's not a human living in your home. It's totally fine to not know the answer. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there, Jerry.
No, that's good because I often ask myself every once in a while, I will have a client that I feel like isn't successful. And I'm
Mm.
trying to find that common little red thread
Could
between
I
all
offer
of them.
something here?
Yeah,
I
please.
wonder if the difference, and this just bubbled up as you were speaking, Kirsten. I wonder if the difference is a commitment to an outcome versus a commitment to the process.
I think that's one of the reasons. I think there's a group of people who are definitely really outcome focused
Yeah, results
in
oriented. Yeah.
general, results oriented, and so they will gravitate to that and have a more difficult time dismantling that and accepting some of the things that you were saying, Kay, about not being attached to some of those things and just seeing it for what it is. There are always going to be people that have a hard time with that. I have noticed, I would say the largest group, air quotes, of people that struggle, or the most common group, let's say it like that, are the overanalyzers and the people everything does not need to be a think piece. Yeah, I will never actually really know what my dog is thinking.
Mm.
I think that I know. I think that I know what Madison is thinking a lot. That's taken me years of being around her, being in good situations, being in bad situations, arguing, agreeing. Like it takes so much. And the times that I struggle in relationship every single time has been when I try to place what I think is going on inside that other being's head. And then I start navigating. I'm doing robot arms, people. I start navigating. I start actually going out in the relationship and doing things based on what I believe in my head that other person is thinking. And I have learned
You make assumptions.
and it gets you in places that you don't want to go. And it also, I think, opinion is a survival tactic. I think it's a way people distract themselves from getting to a goal. It's like I don't know if self-sabotage is the right word, but I have some clients who are just like what you described, and I know it in the first week. I'm like, look at you. I asked you to send me a 2-minute video and you did.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have a question. Like some days you have a question, some days you don't. You always keep it, there's brevity there. You're very to the point. I could see that you're working through. And then I think some people need much more out of a dog trainer. And that may be their only opportunity to work on the art of relationship. They may never go to therapy. They may not have anybody close to them that they can talk to. And so I just noticed that we describe these happenings with clients and what are you guys seeing? I'm seeing over analyzers for the most part. I rarely get people who are not invested. All of my clients are really invested in trying.
I think maybe people pleasing tendency, speaking to myself and my own experience of I definitely have been in the over analyzer camp. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
you probably experienced that with me when I first started with you. And I think that comes from a lack of confidence, not necessarily in general, because for instance, just using myself as a case study here, I consider myself in general a pretty confident and competent person. But I think that dogs hit us in a very interesting sweet spot where we're, depending on the individual, as sensitive about our dogs as we are about our children. And so people a lot of times will put that value on it and really internalize the guilt of, oh, I'm like a bad mom or bad dog mom. Again, you could apply this to any gender. I'm just using it as an example. And so they feel a strong sense of failure when they're not getting it right. And so then they start to overanalyze because they're
Mm-hmm.
so anxious about it. And maybe this is subconscious. I don't think necessarily this is at a conscious level, but I can speak from like a people pleasing perfectionist perspective of, oh, I need to overcompensate by like really trying to understand what's going on here because I feel
Ooh,
this so strongly
Yeah,
when this isn't going well. It's
overcompensation. Wow. I
I
never thought
agree.
about it like that. I'm
Mhm.
overcompensating. Okay. I
To
like
make
that.
up
I
for
just learned.
something where I'm
Yeah.
feeling resistance somewhere else in my life. And this honestly feels a little bit like one of our other cases of the two dog pair in Kuwait, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Of
That
trying to know the unknowable
Mhm.
yes.
versus dedicating that energy into, okay, but what are the first steps to get out? Versus studying the hole
hmm
that you're stuck in, get out of the hole, start climbing.
Yeah, in recovery, it's the ditch. They're
It's the
like, "Are
ditch.
you
You
going to
fell in the
move your
ditch.
couch down there now? You're going to move your couch down there and your TV so that you can watch
You're
TV in
more
between
comfortable
studying the
in the
ditch."
ditch. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that this is helpful for people because it's helpful for me. I have the opposite problem. I have
Mm.
never been a people pleaser. I've had perfectionist issues, but those have drugs and alcohol really cured that for me.
I think that's
But
why people are so
yeah.
gravitated to towards you, Jerry, though, is
Oh,
because I think no, because I
it's
think
healing from perfectionism.
no, seriously, because I think
I'll
maybe
take it.
I'm putting myself in Madison's camp and maybe we're not, but I would say like the average dog trainer, not always, but a decent amount of us are recovering people pleasers and tends towards perfectionism. And versus you show up online very authentically yourself with,
Mm,
am I allowed to swear on your podcast? I don't remember.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Hell
with no
yes.
Yes.
fucks given
Zero
in the
fucks
best way,
given.
like very authentically yourself, very like,
Thank
not in
you.
an egotistical way, but purely this is what the truth is. I don't need to sugarcoat it for you because I'm being honest and that's your best way forward.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us struggle with showing up that way, even if it's our inside thoughts. So I think that's why so many of us
Mm,
want to work from
ooh.
you with a client perspective or learn from you, in my case, from like a student perspective, is acknowledging we're never going to be you, but there's parts of you that we would like to emulate.
Thank you for verbalizing that so clearly. Client
I
said the other
stole my
day,
delusional self-confidence from you. I just
yes,
yanked
I
it,
hope
just
so.
borrowed
Thank
it.
you, Madison. It's well
Delusional
earned.
self-confidence is an endless supply, and you can
Endless
steal as
supply.
much as you like. I had a client the other day, shout out Abby and Ava, and she was telling me about a scenario that occurred. This is to our point. She was telling me about something. She lives in a busy city and she has a pity mix that's great. Her name's Ava. She's, I think, doing very well, but she still struggles occasionally in certain particular situations because she just isn't quite sure how to handle them. And it was baffling to me. I'm like, how can you not know how to handle that? Obviously, I don't say it like that to clients because that's shitty and rude. But in my head, I'm questioning, what am I missing here? What, and that's what it is because she said to me, she's okay, let me tell you, I am a recovering people pleaser. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, oh, because my response, what she said was this: I was waiting for a mailman to do what he needed to do in front of me. I was giving
Yep.
my dog space.
Yep.
She was doing well, all the things. And a woman came up behind her and walked right by her
Mm.
from behind, and Ava lunged at her and she was able to hold her. Nothing happened. And then the lady took out her phone and started recording her. And she's like, what could I have done differently? And she was just like going, spinning around the little drain. And I tried my best. And in that moment, I had to explain to her, this is what happens. You guys, this is the danger of people pleasing.
Yeah.
Because now whose fault does this have to be? It's not, I'm using this as an illustration. This is not what Abby said. Abby was obviously very open and we had a great conversation about it. But when you people please and you're worried more about what's going on with that other person over there that you don't know, or just as an example, somehow it ends up not being your fault. Somehow it ends up being the dog's fault. Because what was her question to me? What could I have done differently so that
Yep.
Ava did not do that? No, fuck that lady, is what I said to her. She saw you standing there. She saw you waiting. She saw you taking a moment in this thing. She could have stepped off to the side. She could have said, coming up behind you. She could
Yep.
have done a number of things, and she chose not to do that. And she put herself in that situation. And Ava did nothing wrong.
And
Nothing.
after the fact, when the
And she
dog is
takes out her
still,
phone.
yeah, no, seriously. And that to me, because sometimes people aren't aware. They could be playing around on their
Sure.
phone. So maybe the lady didn't make a conscious decision, giving the benefit of the doubt. But the moment that she takes out her phone, she becomes the asshole in my mind because
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your client, like, she's not cursing out the lady. She's getting her dog under control. That's the moment for the lady to, if she's scared of dogs or whatever, to walk away, doesn't need to engage, to
Yeah.
say, oh, sorry, or the
Mhm.
scary, any of those things.
Yeah.
The
That
taking
would have
out of
even
the
been
phone
okay.
to me is
Mhm.
a of you're looking for drama. You're
Hmm.
looking for
Yes.
a
Hmm.
fight. You're looking for conflict because there's no need. Your client, it sounds like, had her dog under control and was very in a space of either apologetic or very, okay, let me get this sorted. So there was no
Yeah.
reading for that lady to escalate the situation.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example of how the people pleasing mindset, how I just encourage people to work on that. The same way that I have to work on my mouth, I will always have to work on that because I'm the flip side of that coin. I veer into antisocial at times because I just will not be told by other people. I will not be told a single thing. And that also will get you into trouble. And you guys know what that looks like, listeners, because you've been watching me do it for 5 years. And having to backpedal and apologize and say sorry for things. So we all have things that we need to work on. But what she laid out for you was a client that was, what are the rules or the recipe? What is the recipe for success? It's right here. And she didn't say that the dog parent was tall or short or black or white or boy or girl or whatever. That recipe works for everyone. Show up, be curious, do a little bit of your homework every day, talk to your trainer, ask questions when you have them. Don't overdo it. It's not a think piece, it's fun elementary school. The goal is just for you to enjoy yourself, your dogs to enjoy themselves, and you to learn. You don't have to be perfect, none of that stuff. That's all made up in a fantasy mind. It's just adjacent to where my delusional self-confidence lives.
We can blame traditional media and social media for this
Yeah.
concept of needing to achieve perfection for whatever reason. But I'm curious, Kay, what were some of the biggest wins along the way for Grace and Stella related to the kind of big behaviors they were dealing with?
Yeah, so Grace had already put in a lot of work when it came to Stella working in public spaces. And one thing that was really fun, and this is why I'm relating to what Jerri just said, showing up every day for your dog is huge. And we discovered that Stella likes parkour or outdoor agility. Dog sport people are going to come at me. It's not actually agility, but we were finding things in their home and outside where we were creating little obstacle courses, and people might look at me like, why the heck is this relevant at all? But for a dog that is more wary of stranger danger, very environmentally aware, anything you can do that keeps the focus on fun on your handler, etc., during a walk is really fun. The other thing, which I think Jerri, you might, I didn't know that this was a thing. Sheds are deer antlers. Okay. And so apparently Stella is really good at nose work, like scary good. That I'm really hoping they continue with this. I don't know about going big leagues or whatever, but they definitely need to continue in this sport because Stella Grace could hold like a ball or a rock or a stick or a shed in her hand and hide it somewhere, and Stella would find it. They did this in their backyard, they did this in the park.
Yes.
And so they started working towards, oh, how to find sheds in the wild. They're hoping to take Stella out in like hunting season to try and find
Truffles
sheds.
are next. Truffles are next.
No, I know they can make big money if they go
Right.
into the
Yeah,
jungle.
Stella's going to pay for her own training.
for people that are like listening to this that are like, how do you get into that? I'm going to tell you a little fun fact that you may not know. So unless you have private land, they really wouldn't be able to do something like that. However, if you go and get a hunting license, meaning that you just go through the process, you do not have to hunt, you don't have to kill anything, you don't have to, none of that. You can go and get your hunting license and you can go on walk in public land and you can take your dog. But you
Okay,
have to have that license because you have to be safe. But
thank
that's
you.
like,
I'm DMing Stella and Grace because we've kept in
yeah.
contact post this process, and I'll let her know that you said that because obviously, for viewers who don't know, both Mattison and Jerri are American. I'm Canadian.
Yes.
So I wasn't up on all of the legalities around that. So I will
Hmm.
message them and let them know because I think that it's something that they would really enjoy. And this is why, again, side tangent here, but I think what Madison's doing with the down to earth rallyo is so cool. I think all dog people should do fun sports.
Fun
Viewers
stuff,
can't see, but I'm doing
like
it in
for no
quotations.
purpose other than
Hmm.
just
No,
funsies.
yeah,
It's the
do
same
something
as
fun with your
people.
dog.
It's the
Yeah,
same with
Little League
people.
Baseball for
Everyone should
Timmy.
have a extracurricular exercise activity.
Separate
If
from
you are
dogs.
listening,
Separate from
people, you
dogs.
separate
It's not
from
allowed to be
dogs.
involving dogs.
That's right. You can also
No, no
do
dogs.
one with dogs, but you
Yes.
have to have your own personal hobby
Yes.
that you really enjoy. My pick is running as fast as possible through fields on horseback,
On
and
a
you can
horse, yeah.
maybe do that too. You can maybe do that too. But
Very
it's so
jelly,
good for
Jerry.
when you see that light in their eyes and your dog's out there and they're having fun, and it doesn't have to be for competition.
No.
I caught my daughter barrel racing my old horse yesterday. And I was like, well, he was snappy around that third barrel. And I think that he actually had fun. What?
So did
What is
Enzo
this?
when she ran barrels
Yeah,
with Enzo.
because that was what I was just about to say. So did Fred. So did Enzo.
Yeah.
Because it's not really necessarily about what you're doing. It's just that you're like playing a game
It's
together.
being
And
present.
that's
It's
fun.
being
Yeah.
present instead of being
Yeah.
focused on a goal. And I am a
Right.
goal-oriented person. I have had therapists say to me, you need
Are you
something
both are?
that is like not about accomplishing something, that is not tied to any
Mm.
sort of accomplishment. That's why I play D&D.
Madison,
There's no winning in the game. You just
no.
play.
She says that everyone that is listening, but she's like really high up in D&D,
Okay,
and
here's the thing that you guys need to know is that Jerri doesn't
How did
know
I
anything
not know
about
this?
D&D. No, Jerri has
I don't.
misunderstood this. And when I told her that I am classed as a beast master, she thought that meant I was something special, and I'm not. It's just what I
Oh,
am. It just
Damn
means I
it.
can work with animals, which, like, of course, that's my character.
Listen,
I'm
that's
not good.
special.
I'm novice at best. And that's why I like it. I'm not trying to get any better. I'm just showing up and having fun and casting spells and shit.
Okay, you need to know that I've been telling every single person that I talk
That
to
I'm
about
really good
you
at
that
it.
you're
Yeah, it's
expert
a
level
lie.
We
D&D.
need to get her
God.
on Critical Role or something here.
Right. No, not exactly.
Oh, that's funny
Any
though.
scoots.
I'm glad we found that out. Now we all know.
Now we all know. I want to circle back to
That's
something dog related, which
please.
is pointing at these things that bubbled up to the surface for you, Kirsten, in relation to the skills for Stella. And I want to look at this very specifically because historically, so much of reactive dog training, the behavior that we are expecting our dogs to do is unnatural. It is stillness and direct eye contact and nothing else. Right? It is a sit stay or a down stay with eye contact or place training. Notice that nothing we've talked about involves stillness in any way, because you know what's really hard for a lot of dogs, especially in a state of reaction? Stillness. You know what's much better? Physical movement, like moving around a parkour course, sniffing, things that are natural for dogs. If we keep asking dogs to replace reactive behavior, which is very natural, perfectly natural for them, with something that is so wildly uncomfortable for the majority of dogs, we will continue to be stressed out and frustrated with a lot of reactive dogs in our society, period.
Also, we've bred reactivity into dogs.
1,000% we have.
Think about what is the goal of dogs. For a lot of dog breeds, it was stranger coming onto a farm, you bark at it.
Or notice something that changed and is different.
Yep. Or
And then
go
do
get
something
the
about it.
thing. Yeah,
Do something
go
about
hunt,
it.
go. Yeah. So it's really interesting when it comes to, and Madison knows I'm very much so a breed nerd, super into genetics. And it's just really interesting how our expectations of dogs are for them to not act like dogs, which Jerri talks about all the time on her channel. And it's really hard when it comes to reactivity. And that's why sports and spending a little bit of training each day is so important, because you just need to find other outlets for those same. We can totally modify behaviors. We can totally teach them new skills, but you still need to give them an opportunity to express themselves.
It's got to go somewhere. That energy, that drive does not just disappear. You cannot siphon it away. You have to burn it in an appropriate and productive way.
It's any of us going into therapy, as an example, or school, and being like, yeah, we're going to be a totally new person at the end of this degree or at the end of this therapy session. No, but I think sometimes people take their dogs to dog trainers and they don't think this consciously, but they think basically that they're going to get a new dog. It's no, you're going to get a new version. Similar, I'm sure, to Jerri. Going through the recovery process, I don't have a background in that area, but you were not a different person then versus now. You became, I'm assuming, a different, better version of yourself that you enjoy better. But you're not, you're still Jerri.
I'm still Jerri.
Right. We can't turn a shepherd into a lab any more than we can turn a Jerri into a Mattison.
No,
that's right.
Not at all.
Would we want to?
No, that's the whole purpose. That's why we spend so many years breeding these dogs into these different types of dog breeds, is because humans at some point decided that there was a need for a lab, that there was a need for a German Shepherd, that there was a need for a Malinois or my little Cavalier. There was purpose behind it.
And you know, Jerry's favorite little dog breed
is
the Cavaliers.
Yeah. It is.
That's just as you know.
God.
But I was just going to say, and so I love that you guys always start the process figuring out what kind of mix your clients are. Because a lot of clients have mixed breed dogs, which are super cool. And it's super cool to figure out what makes up that dog and how are those behaviors that are breed specific behaviors coming forth. Because that also impacts
the guardian curious about that, because then it's like, who are you really? And they get to know their dog in a brand new way. Like not just as a dog, but who are you really?
People paint their dogs to be all these different things. And then they're like, oh, hey, but I did a DNA test. And I'm like, great, let's look at it. And I'm like, okay, so I see here that your dog is a coonhound and a mountain cur and pit bull. Okay.
With Stella, when we found out there was cattle dog in there, we were like, this adds up then. This makes sense. And it allows us to understand better where that's coming from, because sure, there's some emotions, but it's also genetically driven. And that is important information.
And I'm just going to circle back about Stella and Grace's boyfriend and how that relates to her being a cattle dog.
Yes, perfect.
And so for viewers that aren't sure or don't know, and I can speak to this as having a cattle dog mix myself, cattle dogs are very much so one-person dogs. They might learn to accept or tolerate other people, but they have their person. And they want to be with their person all the time. They want to be working with their person all the time. And depending on how they're socialized, depending on the personality, everybody else is an intruder. So you learn and you teach the dog to accept other people. And so it was interesting talking about Grace and Stella specifically. Grace and Stella live next door to Grace's parents. And Grace's parents, Stella accepts her grandma, quote unquote, no problem. Grace's boyfriend, on the other hand, not aggressive towards him by any means, but just not sure. They'll get settled on the couch, be watching TV or whatever, and then he'll get up and leave the room and come back, and Stella's like maybe a bit of a growl, maybe a bit of a boof, watching him. And that, as Jerri had pointed out when they did their intake, being that she's a cattle dog, it made a huge amount of sense.
Okay, so for the folks listening at home who are feeling a little bit like they might have their own Stella, what would be your words of wisdom for them?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the best thing, and the thing that worked for me and my dog, and the thing that worked for Grace and Stella, is to work on your relationship. Because dogs like Stella or Frodo, which was the name of my cattle dog, they thrive on relationship. They want to be with you all the time. They want to work with you, and they're looking to you for guidance. They're looking to you to figure out how to navigate the world. And when they find the world scary, whether or not that's other dogs or other people, work on your relationship a little bit each day. Have those short training sessions, show up, do the homework you're doing with the trainer, and find a sport. Find an activity to do together, whether or not that's finding sheds, super unique, doing a little parkour set. It doesn't need to be big. There's YouTube tutorials. You can do things out in your park. If you live in an apartment, like, you don't need a ton of space, but just do something with your dog.
Of course, great in like an urban environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Yeah, just do things together. Oh, building confidence. The dog sports, doing training together will help build the confidence, which will help resolve the reactivity. And I think that is the best advice I could give.
Unpacked was created by Jerri Sheriff and Mattison Simpson.
If you are enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister podcast, Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next time.